is the ice maker in the ice dispenser in the door of my Samsung refrigerator. It'll still dispense water, but no ice, no matter what button you press, no matter what you do, no ice. So we're going to take a look at it and see if we can figure out how to fix it. All right, first thing to do is to press and hold that ice off or the child safety button for about 4 seconds until it disables the water and ice systems. That way you don't get squirted with water while you're trying to take things apart. There's that one screw there at the top. You'll need to remove that screw next to the ice dispenser before you can try to remove the system. After you have that screw out, you kind of have to pull or jiggle or finesse that control panel loose from the refrigerator. You have to pull harder than you think you might. You'll be afraid you're going to break it, but you do have to give it a good tug to get it out. Okay, once you've got it released, you need to go ahead and disconnect the wiring harness. And do not pull on the wires themselves. You must press the little tab on the side of the connector and pull the connector itself, not the wires. Underneath this cover is where the little switches are that get triggered by the dispenser selection for ice or water. And that was my first guess as to what was wrong with it. I thought maybe these switches had gone bad and just weren't completing the circuit. So I went ahead and took the cover off and pulled these switches out. So I was going to check continuity with my meter. If either one of these switches was not working, then that would indicate the problem was a bad switch. So get your meter out, set it to continuity or set it to an ohms setting so that you can check for a complete circuit. And then I just attach the probes to each side of the switch, press the button, and this switch is good. You see on the meter there, it has a complete circuit flowing through it. So we'll do the same thing with the other switch. I'm expecting it to fail. But Murphy's Law being what it is, when I get the meter hooked up to it, check for continuity. What do you know? This switch is good too. Okay, that was a bad plan. That's not the problem. So, looking at the assembly a little closer, it becomes pretty obvious right away what the problem is. There's two switches there, one for ice, one for water, and you see there's an arm, one for water, but this little piece was found in the mechanism. This little arm is for the ice. It's supposed to go in that slot right there, and it's not there. The little arm for ice is broken. Normally that arm would be in place. It would press against that switch that I just installed there. I can't hold on to that little piece, but you can see that if it was in place there, it would press that little button when you called for ice, and it would provide ice to the glass. So the issue is not an electrical problem. It's actually a physical problem. The arm that presses on the switch for ice has been broken off. It's missing, and that's why we're not getting ice when we ask for it. So, like many repair jobs today, we head off to Amazon. I grabbed a copy of my model number, the Samsung model number, the RF4267HABP, and searched Amazon and found a couple of different replacement options. There was an aftermarket replacement assembly for about $70, and there was a Samsung original equipment model. At the time, it was about $130. And the Samsung is the one that broke to begin with, so I thought I'd go ahead and try the aftermarket. And this is what I got. There's a link in the description for this. Now, the price has changed. Looks like the Samsung now is about $90, so there's only about a $20 difference in price between the original equipment and the aftermarket. But whichever one you decide, go ahead and order it, get it in place, and when you get it in, it looks exactly like what we had before. It's the same mechanism, the same description of parts and cables and all, so it should work perfectly. And look at that, it has both arms. It has the ice arm and the water arm. So this should be just what we need. You can see when you press on the different arms, the different button is pressed calling for water or ice. Just for the sake of clarity, I thought I'd show a little closer view of the arms, just to kind of explain exactly what I was talking about in case it wasn't clear in the previous shot. Now, when you go to disassemble the old mechanism there, don't be like me. Use a rubber mallet. I couldn't find mine, so I just used a hammer to knock it loose. I knew I was going to throw it away anyway. Take your new system and your existing system and compare the wiring harness to make sure that all the plugs and connectors on the purchased item match exactly what is on your control panel from your refrigerator. Just make sure you have the same number of connectors, the same number of pins, and the same types of connectors. Just make sure it's the same item because you don't want to plug in something that's not exactly the same. All right, once you're convinced that it's the correct item, go ahead and remove the wires from the control panel. And again, these types of connectors, don't pull from the wire. Press the little tab on the side of the connector and then pull the connector off. If the connector doesn't want to come off right away, you can use a pair of needle nose to grab them and pull them off. Sometimes it's really tight in there. If you have big fingers, it's hard to get a good grip on it. So just use a pair of needle nose if it's stubborn or if you don't have the finger dexterity to pull those off. But don't pull on the wires. That's the number one mistake people make when trying to do these kinds of repairs. And if you pull that cable harness apart, then you have another repair to worry about. And at this point, you're ready to reassemble. Take your little metal cubed crush selector and slide it back onto the control panel. There are two springs underneath that piece of metal, so be sure they're both there. They don't come off typically, but make sure they are in place. Then slide the new mechanism into the control panel holder, and it should snap. It should snap into place to be sure that you've got it all the way in. Don't just push it partially in. Push it in till it snaps. And then reconnect the wires that you just removed. The new device has new wires, so plug them into the same place you removed the old wires from off of the defective unit. They are polarized to only fit one way, so be sure you plug them in the correct orientation. Okay, at this point you are ready to reinstall the panel in the refrigerator. Connect the plug-in connector first. Again, it's tabbed on one side, so it's oriented to only fit one way. Once you get it plugged back in, there's some tabs at the top of the panel that you need to snap into the refrigerator. Make sure your wires are not in the way. And then the bottom part sort of snap pound into place, and that should hold it. Make sure it's fully seated. No cracks on either side, and then put your screw back in to secure it into place. Okay, you'll have a flashing code on your display there because the control panel has been disconnected. Press and hold the energy saver and the lighting button at the same time for 10 seconds, and that should reset the computer and clear the code. Now remember, you disabled the ice and water dispenser with the child lock before we started, so go ahead and hold that button down again to disable the lock so you can actually use and test the dispenser. And finally, reach up inside where the water tube is and snap it into the holder that's provided there so that the water will flow into the glass into the expected position. Otherwise, it may be towards the back of the glass. Just snap it into place. And you're complete. Good job. The only thing left to do is enjoy some ice water from your door dispenser that now works correctly. I hope you found that helpful. If you did, please do the like, share, subscribe thing. That really helps out the channel. come on back and check out some other how-to DIY videos. And if you have suggestions, please leave a comment. Let me know what you'd like to see. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Take care.